again, everyone. If you have questions, feel free to use the chat function on the side here, and we can try to answer your questions as well in the chat. All right, so um, thank you all for attending today. This is a wonderful opportunity for students at your schools. I don't know if or when was the last time we did this, but we're here today to talk about the Student Benefit Account Grant Program, what it is, and how it can be helpful to your students. So let's get this going here. All right, that's the webinar for the schools. Okay, so the purpose of the program is to provide financial support to students who are near completion of the program, and we're defining near completion as having attained at least 50% would be those that would be eligible. Um, the the grant is to help students overcome remaining tuition barriers. It can only be applied to tuition only and designed as a last dollar support. So basically our office, the OHE, is making available some grant scholarship dollars that can be used for one or more of your students to help them complete their program by helping to pay down their tuition. And I'll get into the specifics of that. Okay, so where does this come from and why is this available? In the Connecticut General Statutes, 10A 22R through 10A 22T, it directs the office to establish a private career school student benefit account. That benefit account is funded through payments made by you all through private career schools. The money that you pay into the student protection account. Once the student protection account reaches a certain statutory threshold, then the statute then tells OHE to establish this student benefit account, and this student benefit account is then um, used to fund the student grants that I've been talking about. The statutes also specify that the commissioner is responsible for establishing the criteria, is responsible for prescribing the application forms and the process, and is responsible for setting policies for the return of funds. And to help the commissioner do that, there is, per the statute as well, to advisory committee. The advisory committee is also set by statute, and the members, the roles of the committee members are also set by statute as well too. So per the statute, it needs to include representatives from private career schools, from workforce and education stakeholders. So once we had established that the threshold had been met for the student protection account, we created the student benefit account. We established the advisory committee. There are 2 representatives from private career schools on there. And then we went about creating the criteria, nomination award process, and the application and forms that would be used to distribute the grants. We finalized the policy, put in our recommendations, and the commissioner has formally established the policies and the forms for the grant award. Okay, so to be eligible to receive the student grant, the student must be a resident of Connecticut. They must be enrolled in an OHE authorized program, to which all of you should be authorized by our office. Um, they must have completed at least 50% of the program, which I mentioned before. They must have at least $500 in unmet tuition need. And they must demonstrate financial need as well too. So these are some of the criteria that for a student to be able to receive the award must have these things in place. For those that came in, also, if you have questions, just you can put it in the chat for now. I'm kind of monitoring the chat. If you throw questions in there, I'll try to answer them. And then I may attempt to open things up at the end if you have some follow-up questions. Okay. So for schools, you are responsible for identifying eligible students and distribute to these students a link to apply. I think I did that. I think we did. I think your officers may have distributed that link earlier for students to apply. So basically, we're asking you to. Hi, Kim. I see your question. I'm coming to financial aid in a second. Um, for So what we need you to do is send it out to students that you believe are eligible at your school with the link, telling them they apply. They need to fill out the application form. You, as the school, will review the application form and the responses, as well as your internal records to verify that everything is correct. You have to decide if you want to nominate a student or not. And then once you nominate students, then you will have the opportunity to rank a certain number of them in terms of who you would definitely want to have receive the grant first, down to who may receive the grant, depending on how many schools apply and how much funding we have available. And the students should submit the nominations by the deadline, and I'll review the timeline on the next slide. So the timeline, basically students submit their applications. They can submit their applications between April 1st and April 30th. Schools will review and evaluate the applications. So on May 1st, well, you can throughout the entirety of April, you can, as you get applications in, you can review them and you can decide if you want to nominate or not nominate. And you can also, or you can decide, yeah, that's what I want to say. You can decide to nominate or not nominate. Once the submission closes, so May 1st through May 15th, based on your pool of those students you said you wanted to nominate, then you'll choose a certain number from the pool, and then you'll rank order those students. And I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit in VOC. Once you have ranked your students, we will review by May 15th. We will review, push it forward. We have kind of an award sequencing process, which I'll explain in a little bit, and then we issue the awards in June. So here's the timeline laid out here. The awards will be given to the school, not to the students, and you will apply the award amounts to the students' tuition accounts. Okay, and to talk a little bit about the award sequencing, what we try to do for the committee is we try to develop a process so that every school has the opportunity to give a grant award to at least one of their students. So we try to build out a process that would make that happen, which is not overly complicated, but has some steps in it to make that happen. First thing we did was we separated schools into two categories. Smaller schools, which we define as having less than 100 students enrolled. And the limit for smaller schools would be to have two nominations. And then for larger schools, which have 100 plus students in them, they would have the opportunity to nominate four students. Enrollment is the number of current active students there. And not all nominations are guaranteed funding. So we wanted to have a big enough pool. Again, it depends on how many schools send nominations in and how much money we have. So if we have enough, we can go down the list of nominations. If we don't have enough, then we have your rank ordering there. So the award sequencing, um, our aim is to give all of our ranked one nominations funding. So hopefully everyone who was ranked number one by your schools will get it. Then for the number two rank, we'll start with the larger schools first, and then the smaller schools, and then we'll go to ranks 3 and 4 for the larger schools as well, if there's funds remaining. The award, Kim, coming back to your question, the award is to cover tuition after all other payments have been made. So it includes grants, loans, employer funding, payments, and financial aid means after all of federal financial aid, yes. So this would be costs that the students still have to pay out of pocket um, after after all the other payments and funding have been applied. So really like still money they have to pay the school out of pocket basically that they don't have any scholarships or federal funding or anything else for. And the focus is for those students that have a financial need so that you're really trying to help those students out first. And again, as a reminder, students unmet tuition balance needs to be at least $500. Um, Martin, I see your question. There is not a length of course requirement. No. So any student, well, not any student, any of your programs is available as long as the students meet the other criteria. So it could be a shorter program, longer program, it doesn't matter. Okay, I see the other question there. It's a one-time offer. N- no. The, the ability to for us to be able to have this money available is dependent again on the trigger that's in the statute. And the trigger says that the student protection account has to be at a certain balance. I think it's like $2.5 million. Once it's over $2.5 million, then we can make this available. So this fiscal year, that was true. I don't expect it's going to go down next fiscal year. So I expect next fiscal year we will also have funds available to do this. It will probably be more than we have in the pool this year. So I expect this to be going at least for a minute until, say, we have some urgency where we would need to spend down from the student protection account. Kelly, I see your question here. Can the funds be used for students with overtime hours balance? I'm not sure what that means. Um, and perhaps that might be a unique situation. The calculation, and perhaps this will answer your question. The calculation is based on what the total program tuition amount is versus how much they've paid already. So if your program, per your filing with our office, say costs $10,000 and they've paid $6,000 into it, then there's $4,000 of unmet tuition balance that's there. I don't know the calculation of overtime hours or anything else like that, but your program should cost a fixed amount. And you should have payments going into that or not. Yes. Um, and I see your question. So the grant award is between $500 and $5,000 that you can give out. Ryan, I see your hand up. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sean, I think in the case of overtime hours, we're talking about, say, a student, it's a 500-hour program. The student completed the 500 hours, but had to do makeup time or for whether it's grade related issues or attendance related issues regarding hours. And then there are schools that do charge for time beyond their contracted agreement. So if a student was supposed to come for 500 hours, they missed time, but then they're able to make it up. And it doesn't result in a withdrawal due to attendance issues, but they still have to make up those hours, especially when we're talking about licensure programs that require a certain amount that they have to come to class after the scheduled time. Um, Let me know if I'm understanding your question correctly, but I believe that's what we're referring to when it's as far as overtime hours are concerned, and if those hours are eligible for the fund, even though they technically completed their contractual hours, but they didn't meet the licensure or the school requirements.
Yeah. I'll have to think about that. My initial inclination is to say no, but I will give it some thought. I'll talk to my staff here and come up with an answer for you. Questions are coming fast and furiously. Let me just finish this other slide and then I will come back to the questions. So just again, just to reiterate, what counts as funding is all of these things here as well too, that you may or may not get from your school. So make sure not to leave out things like student payments or loans, funds, including funds not yet applied to tuition, incorrect ranking of students, and submitting ineligible students. All right. So I have a walkthrough to do in VOC, which I will do in a second, but let me see if I can answer some more questions here, and then I will engage in the walkthrough for a little bit. Okay, so Martin has a question. Does demonstrate financial need mean student has unmet tuition need of $500 or more? Any other requirements to demonstrate financial need? No, financial need is not related to their unmet tuition need. Financial need, we have three questions in VOC related to financial need. One is about the size of their household income. One is about the size of their household. And one is a narrative saying why they have financial needs. So financial needs is really their ability to pay. And they may have some financial difficulties. And you as the school will get to determine based on those questions whether you think that student is demonstrating financial need or not. So those are the three questions we have. And you all can basically determine from that if you think their students demonstrating financial need or not. So it's up to you. It's up to you. But it should really, you should pick students that are actually demonstrating financial need. Darlene has a question. Our courses are range from 100 hours to 300 hours. Most of our students attend a course for about 5 weeks. How would the application window work for our students? For shorter term courses, like 100 hours to 300 hours, at the time the student applies, they should have completed at least half of the program and understand by the time we make tuition, the grant available, they might have finished the program already. In those cases, you can reimburse the student if you decide to award them the grant once the money is made available. Are Title IV, are non-Title IV programs eligible? Yes, the non-Title IV is eligible. Although I mentioned on my previous slides about Title IV and Pell and whatever else, understand that majority of schools are not Title IV eligible. So really, if you have it, then you'd put it. If you don't have it, then you'd put 0 in there. And I'll show you in the VLC walkthrough what that looks like. So yeah, it's just we're just capturing a bunch of different things, and not everything may apply. Can you? All right, I think I answered that question about financial need and other things. So I will switch screens now to talk about the VOC walkthrough. So we built this out in VOC. And I will give you a quick demonstration of that. Okay. Keep this up as well so I can see. All right, so anybody give me a thumbs up? Anyone on my staff give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can see the application here on the screen. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So this is a public form that any one of your students can fill out. So you would share this link with them and let them know this is available on April 1st and after. Some very excited schools had already shared the form, I think, to students. Anything that is given before April 1st will not be considered and deleted. So the previous entries we had are gone. You need to start this on April 1st. So on April 1st and afterwards, they can fill this form out, and I will fill it out just so that you can see what that looks like. So I will just say test student here. You can put in your student ID, which might help you out, what their birthday is. Some time ago. Oh, it's all right. What their email address is. I'll put my email address. And their phone number. So I'll put my phone number in here. Okay. They must be a Connecticut student, so they have to answer yes to this question. Then they have to fill out what their address is. I'll put a address for our office, city, and zip code. Just so you know, if they answer no to this question, they won't be allowed to submit the form. They'll have to pick their school. So all of the schools are on here. And since you asked about Glow and Grow, I'll put you on there. And then your aesthetics program. These are the questions around financial need that I mentioned. So this one is asking what their total annual household income is before taxes. So they can list what it is here. They can also list how many dependents that they have in the household. And this piece here is for them to describe their financial hardship narrative. So when you get the student application back, you can review these things and determine if you really think that the student's demonstrating a financial hardship or not, and decide if you want to go forward with it. So this is where the narrative goes. And then the student just certifies that everything above is true, and then understands that just because they submit it doesn't mean they're going to get an award. The school will determine if they will nominate me, and any grant will be applied directly to their account, and will not be given to the student, but given to the school to apply to their account. They have to sign. That's who they are, confirm their signature, and then submit the application. Once they submit it, again, they will get a little message here, saying that the school got it. it's not a guarantee, and that awards are expected to be finalized. I also say, if they have questions, that they should contact you directly to the student. Any questions about this form, by the way, before I move forward? Okay, thanks, Martin. All right, no questions. All right, so once the student submits a form, and you probably got an email that says somebody submitted a form for Glow and Grow for this. So after every student submits a form, you will get a notification that's saying a student submitted a form. I think in the notification it will have a name on it. You do, the school does, Ann. I'll come back to that in a second. Sandra, I see you have a question. Can you put it in the chat for me? I see you have your hand raised. If you can put it in the chat. At the end, I will let people, come off mic and talk and whatever else. But for now, just if I can just do questions in the chat. Yeah, so sorry. After every student submission, you will get a notification saying a student submitted it. I think it'll have their name on the notification. Then you'll be able to come in here. We'll put a link on your dashboard so you can come in here and take a look at them. So you don't have to wait until after the end of the end of April to look at the applications. You can do them as they come in. And so I'm going to go in here. This is the one I submitted. You will see what the student submitted here. So you'll see their application at the top here that they filled out. And then at the bottom here is where you would come in to for your review. So the first part of this is if you want to nominate the student or if you do not want to nominate the student. And if you say to yourself, I only got 2 nominations or I only got 4 nominations. At this point in the process, you don't need to figure that out. So you can put in, you can say, I want to nominate 10, like you can do 10 nominations or 50 nominations at this step is fine, because at the next step, from your pool of nominations, then you can really think about, okay, who is the 2 or 4 students I want to put forward. So don't feel at this process you got to censor yourself in terms of like, who's the 2 or 4. If this looks good, like throw them in the pot, and then later on you can figure out, from that pool who you want to put in there. So if you don't want to nominate the student, it just asks for a reason for not nominating them, and then you hit the do not nominate student button. If you do want to nominate them, then a longer field opens up in here, and then you will see the name of the program that they selected, as well as the number of clock hours. If you look at the student and you're like, this student's not in my aesthetics program, they're in my eyelash program, they picked the wrong program or something else like that. You can scroll up here and you can go back to your list of programs and you can pick the right program. Glow and Grow only has aesthetics, but if for some reason the student picked the wrong program, you can correct it up here. And once you correct it up there, it will then change down here. This length of program is automatically picked based on our records of what you submitted in their program. Then the school has to certify that the student has completed at least 50% of the program, and then you will put in the percent of program completion that they have at the time of nomination. So you would certify this, you'd put in the percent of program completion, and in this field here, you would upload their transcript or academic progress record that you put in here. So we would have it as a reference if we needed to take a look or audit your submission to make sure that, yes, the student at this time had actually completed 50% of the program. This is the question here on financial need. Again, it's up to you, the school, to decide if you think the student's demonstrating financial need or not based on the description that they put up here. So if you review this and you're like, I think that this student is demonstrating financial need, then over here you'd click the box saying, yes, I believe that they have, and you'd move on. This next section here is where we do the calculations. This section and the next section is where we deal with the calculations for the total program tuition. This amount here, again, is the amount that we have on file for your program, for this program, um, that we have in our records. So if you're looking at this amount and you'd be like, that's not the total program amount for my program, then you need to work with your officer to update the program and tuition program that you have right now, because it means that what you have on file with us is not correct. So you need to do that way, and then this amount will change. But amount will not change until you update your records if it is wrong for some reason. The the student ledger is what you would put in here, which would document all of the other stuff you're filling out at the bottom here, which I'll go through in a second, in terms of what they have paid and what's left to be paid, and what you've charged so far, etc. So this should confirm everything you're filling out in section G. So section G, this is where I talked about where we would count all of the other stuff that has currently been repaid. Sorry, that has currently been paid. If something does not apply, so like my school doesn't have Title IV, we don't do Pell, just put in 0. So any amount that's not true for that student, you just put in 0 for that student. And that's fine. So yeah, I'll just fill this out. If there is some other non-student funding, you can put that in there and then describe what that is. Let's say the student's already paid $4,000 out of pocket, and I don't have any other private loans or anything else like that. I don't have any federal student loans. So at the bottom here in section H, it would calculate how much has been paid already. So that's basically the sum of everything I have up here. So I said 4,000. If I put $500 in here, for example, this would update to 4,500. And then this unmet student balance amount would be this amount here minus from the total tuition that we have up here. And we get this amount over here. So like I said, the grant amount is between $500 and $5,000. So if it is between $500 and $5,000, it'll show up here. If you're like, I don't want to do the whole, 3950. I only want to do, 3,000. You could just put 3,000. Oh, sorry, 3,000 in there instead. Mistake. You can reset the field back to what it was. So you can go with whatever the total unmet need is, or you can do less than that if you wanted to do less for some reason. If you know they have some kind of scholarship going in or something else like that, you'd put that in there. You'd fill your name out, sign, date, and then you'd say you'd nominate the student. Hopefully I filled out all the fields in there. I did not. Did I not fill out? Oh. I don't know if I have a nice dummy file for put in there. Let's see here. One second. I get something in here I can use. Where is my cursor? Sorry. 1 second, where's? Here we go. All right. 1 second. Okay. So I can do my dummy file there. And I think I have another upload up here. Dummy file there. They finished 60% of the program. Okay, let's see if I did everything. Okay, perfect. All right, so and then that's done there. Once that is done, then the next step in the process is, so after April 30th, you'll come on over here. Actually, hold on, sorry. Oh, okay, it is closed. You will come in over here. I haven't finished smoothing this out as yet, but I believe that we will launch this and you'll get an email saying now it's time to fill out this piece of it. So this will become available. And over here, you'll have, once you click that button, you will have all of the students that you nominated. So you'll have your whole pool here. If you did 10 students, you'd have 10 students here. If you had 3 students, so they'll all show here. And then you can pick. So this Glow and Grow can do 2 nominations. Number 1 will probably get the grant. So you can select test student and then whoever else, there's nobody else here, but you can, whoever the second person is, you put that in there and then you submit. And that is what you have to do for your nomination process. Okay, I hadn't been paying attention to the chat, so let me see what I got in here. If the student has a payment plan with the school to cover the balance after Title IV funds, would they be able to apply to help cover the payment plan amount? Yes, any unmet tuition need the student would be eligible for. How would the schools receive the funds? Okay, and good to know you didn't get a notification yet. The school will receive a check from our office, which would be for the total amount for all of the students that you have. It could be, maybe we only had funds for 1, so it's probably 1, or it might be 2, or whatever it is, whatever the total amount is of students nominated, you'd get that total amount, and then you take that check and then you'd apply it for each of your students. Okay. Moving on. Okay, so just as a reminder, once we get all of your nominations in, we will review them. We will award based on the policy and the funding, which I talked about earlier in terms of the sequencing. Funds will be sent to the school and the schools will apply the funds to the tuition amount. So you will see the total amount in the check as well as who got applied. And as I had mentioned earlier, if you have a very short-term program so that by the time the award becomes available, the student would have already finished the program. If they were eligible at the time of application, then you can refund the amount to the student of the unmet tuition amount. And that's what I have. Questions? Any other questions from folks? And I can give you an opportunity to unmute yourself if you wanted to ask something directly. Yes, Ryan.
Sean, did you want to go over if they had a student who became eligible for the grant, but then withdrew or was terminated from the program for
Right.
whatever reason?
Yes, thank you. So for a student that is eligible that you gave the grant award amount to, and for some reason they decided to withdraw or drop from the program, you can then reapply the remaining amount to the next eligible student that you had ranked on the list. So, um, so you can essentially keep the dollars, but then give it to the other students that you had ranked on there. If you ran out of students that you nominated, then you'd return the money back to OHE. But essentially, we want you to give the money to other students that you had on the list. Thanks, Ryan. The only situation where we'd really need that money back is if you decided to close before the students finish their program, which I'm sure none of you will be encountering that situation. So we should be good. Okay. After April 30th, when will be the next time to apply? Sometime in the next fiscal year, which fiscal year starts July 1st of 2026. So after that, I will make an announcement again. You'll get an announcement. I'm expecting it would be sooner than March. It'll probably be maybe October-ish, October, November-ish of this year, assuming we have funds. The reason it's this late this year is because we had to establish the policy and everything else, set up the committee and all that other stuff. So next year, the committee would already be established. We'd already have the policy in place. We may need to revise the policy a little bit based on what happens this year, but it should be a much smoother process. For next year, I should be able to set it up earlier. Okay, Kelly's got a question. Sorry, Kelly. 1 second. Let me see if I can find you to unmute you. There we are. Okay, you can, Kelly, you can, yeah,
Hi, thanks for, I just want to elaborate on my question earlier because I find that the overtime balance that a student has, to just go back to that, that tends to be this, a student that tends to have an unmet need because they didn't plan for that. I have one particular student I really wanted to nominate due to mental health. She missed a lot of time and then she pulled it all together and now she's graduating by the skin of her teeth, but she does have a balance. And then after watching your webinar, it looks like based on just using the tuition amount, there really wouldn't be a way because that wouldn't be in your calculations. If there is any other way, I don't know if other schools feel the same way. I just know that that tends to be one of the hardships that we find, are the students that have something happen while they're in school, miss a lot of time because of it, and now they have this balance that they have no way of paying. And yeah, so I just wanted to see if there was any way to do that.
right. And just to make sure I understand you correctly, they would have paid, or this would be above and beyond what the normal program cost is. So there's a program cost and then there's some over hours based on the student's experience as well. So it'd be, total cost of program plus something extra because of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's additional tuition that's
right.
charged because they graduated beyond their grad date.
Okay. All right. I will confer. I don't think we'll be doing that this round though. Probably for next. We can consider it for next time the funds are available. I think we can incorporate that in there, but
Okay, that would be great. Thank you
yeah,
for considering.
sure. Sandra, you can go ahead. I gave you control of your mic. You just have to unmute. Yep,
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I certainly can.
Good morning. Nothing seems to be working. I couldn't type in the chat. It kept telling me that chats are only available during the meeting, and I'm in the meeting, so I don't know. I went to setting. Good morning, all. So I have a student who started in June of last year. Paid minimal, but she kept going. She's like 75%, I want to say, done. But she dropped. I spoke to her about the scholarship when I first saw the email, and I was trying to get some information, but Christine said I had to attend. Would she be eligible if she re-enrolled?
Um, yes, I want to say yes. And any of my staff tell me if I'm saying something bad here, but yeah, Ryan.
I would say yes if they were able to transfer in or come back at least 50%. If you were making them restart the program because they withdrew or they didn't successfully complete the 50%, then they wouldn't be. But
Mhm.
if they are an enrolled student who is past the 50% threshold, they would be eligible. That would be my interpretation.
Okay, thank you.
That's fair. I agree with what Ryan said there. Yeah. I have given everybody the control to unmute yourself. So if there's any other questions, you can raise hand, I can call you, and then you can unmute your mic as well too, if there's a question. Sorry, Anne, I did see your question here about the percentage of household income to determine financial need. We're leaving that up to the schools. So if you want to develop some internal policy at your school to be like, if you need to do this, this, and this in order for you to have financial need, which, like you said, would probably avoid some students feeling like, well, why did you say that student had a financial need and I don't? Having a uniform policy would probably make sense, but we're leaving that up to the school to decide what that would be and how you would determine that. All you have to do on the application is just check off that you believe that the student has demonstrated financial need. Other questions? Okay, well, seeing none and hearing none, thank you all for attending. Like I said, this will be available from April 1st. If you don't have the link, will resend the link to you so that students can submit them in. I'll put a link on the dashboard so you can go in and review the submissions that you get. I will double check to make sure that the notifications are working properly. And so that you can see them as they come in. Jenna, I'm not sure I understand your question. Are we able to do a text one? A text what? Oh, a test one. Sure. Sure, just label it as test or something, just so we'll know what it is, and we can ignore it. Yeah, that's fine. We'll resend you the link, Kim, so you can see the link for students to apply. And I'll put the link on the dashboard so that once you get submissions in, you can go, you'd be also be able to go to your dashboard and see it. We will send the slides out to you. I'll have your officer send the slides out to you. As well as the recording for this meeting as well too. So you can look at the recording and you can look at the slides. Other questions? Good questions. All right, well, thanks again, everybody. And I'm looking forward to having lots of applications come in so we can give this money out.
Won't let me type.